Hello, let me go over the solution for homework number 10. Number 10 was non-parametric test, and the, uh, there is a little bit different in terms of calculation and a little bit sort of harder than parametric tests sometimes. Sometimes we have some sort of difficulty to calculate, mostly based on ranking. So let's look. Look at problem one. We have 10 subjects. The anxiety score was it was listed for each subject. The question I asked was, first of all, the higher score means more anxiety. We want to test if the median score for population sample for anxiety is 50 at alpha 0.05. So, and here, what hypothesis you're going to use is because the question it says if they test the median score, then the population median is 50, the population median is not 50. And what is the p-value for binomial test for this problem? So here, the binomial test, you set up your hypothesis. Remember, we rank, we compare each value with the under null, which was 50. If the value is greater, you put plus sign. Otherwise, if it's equal, you put 0. Otherwise, you put negative sign. So here, because it was two-side test, we use the a sample distribution binomial. We have n with the p 0.5. For two-side test, we need to check if their probability positive is greater than negative or positive is less than. Here we see the negative we have one negative value and 8 positive values, so it's easier to calculate probability less than equal 1 from binomial. Since it's two-sided test, we multiply by 2. And the way you're going to look at the table of binomial is by you find your n first. Our n was 10, and then you find 0.5. Here is 0.5, and for less than 1, these are cumulative. So you find 1 here, and then this value would be 0.0107, and that is the probability binomial with p 0.5 and n10, and we multiply that by 2. That is the value 0.0214. You get it. So that's the correct answer. And what is your conclusion? Since this value is less than 0.05, we reject the null and conclude alternative. The population median is not 50. Now, if you were using parametric tests, what would you use? If you have large sample size, you would use one sample t-test because you are using median or mean, the measure of center, so you're using one sample t-test. Now, question 2, we have again 10 nursing student given anxiety test before and after situation. We wanted to know if we can conclude that the intervention was effective to decrease. Here the word decrease, it shows it's one-side test. And so again, those 10 students, these are before, these are after. What was the hypothesis? Remember here, we are doing a mean, the difference equals 0 or less than one-side test, because here you are, the keyword was decrease, so that's the correct answer. Now, what is the Z statistic for sign rank test? Here, you create a difference between post and pre, and you put the value here, the difference, and then you put the sign here. So we have 7 negative and 3 positive. So then you're using the Z based on if if you remember, if your D is less than n over 2, which is 10 over 25, then you're using plus sign. So you add 3 plus 0.5 minus 10 over 2 over square root 10 over 4, which is give you negative 0.95. Now, because this is one side test, so you're going to look at the critical value z.95, which is the left side because it's negative. You look in negative 1.645. And then since this value is not less than, or the absolute value of 0.95 is not greater than 1.645, we fail to reject and cannot conclude. So that's the answer for the negative 0.95. And we fail to reject the value here. Again, we fail to reject to reject the null here. So, and again, for D and E part is the question we are asking here is this is you're gonna sum sort of the step you did at the previous one till the difference is the same. Now you're ranking all of these based on the value, absolute value. So for example, -1, the absolute value is 1, is the first one, the lowest value, and so forth. You rank all of these values. Then you put the sign back, and then you sum of the negative and sum of the positive value. And then you put the sum of the positive value here, and you basically replace n here, and you get negative 1.53. Again, since this is less than negative 1.645, you failed to reject. So that was the correct answer for that. And what type of parametric test you can use for this problem? Because before and after is one sample per test or match test, t-test you're going to use. Problem 3, I say, let's say for question 2, if we measure the anxiety score before and after intervention for male and female, what statistical test you're going to use for the difference between male and female? So Wilcoxon sign rank test is the correct answer. What type of parametric test you can use for this problem if you have large? So you'll use 2 sample t-tests with difference of after and before anxiety score, basically. So you take the difference for, and then you have for male and female, and you do the 2 sample t-tests. That would be the answer for that question. So when you have the situation, male before and after and female before and after, you take the difference for male and female and then do the 2 sample t-tests for the difference before, after, and before anxiety score. The question 4 is basically I ask you to look at the output for you have one-way analysis for coping by age group. You have 3 age group here. So I ask you, what is the value test statistics? The test statistics, the value you find is here, Kruskal-Wallis test 1.49. So, and what is your conclusion for this test? Because your p-value here is less than alpha 0.05, you fail to reject, so you cannot reject it. And the question part C is asking if it was large sample size, what kind of test you're going to use? Is the analysis of variance or one-way ANOVA would be the right answer. I hope this feedback helped you to understand better the material.